All right, welcome everybody to another session of Developer Hours. My name is Nick Diego, and I'm a full-time sponsor contributor with Automatic working on WordPress. And I'm joined today by our presenter, Justin Tadlock. Justin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm also a developer relations advocate, sponsored by Automatic, right beside Nick. He's on my team. So hopefully we're doing good work.
Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy these sessions. Justin's going to be talking to us today about registering block templates from plugins, which is a really cool new API coming soon to WordPress. Before we kick off the presentation, there are a few general announcements we like to cover, just to kind of share with you all some of the happenings in the WordPress space. The first of which is WordPress 6.7. So WordPress 6.7 is kind of that release process is underway. They're kind of in the alpha phase at the moment. The official release will be on November 12th. And the first beta, the first time, the full beta will be on October 1st. So some of the stuff that you're seeing today will actually be in WordPress 6.7. So this is kind of why we're sharing both the release timeline and new features in these developer hour sessions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share for you just the link to the 6.7 schedule. It's a make post, and you can check that out if you're interested. So the next thing that we always like to share with you all in these developer hour sessions is a blog post series called What's New for Developers. This is posted on the WordPress developer blog, and it happens on the 10th of every month. And thankfully, today is the 10th of September. So we have the latest What's New for Developers for September. These posts cover the latest happenings in Gutenberg and in WordPress, and they're a great way, to spend, 20 minutes catching up on what's happening if you're a developer. We also highly encourage you to subscribe to the WordPress developer blog. Actually, a lot of the content that we're going to be covering today was already in an article on the developer blog, and there's a lot of great articles being posted weekly there. So there's the subscribe link. I put that in the chat as well. Next up is that these developer hours is a series that we do about twice a month. And so the recordings for all these sessions are posted on both WordPress TV and YouTube. So if you want to catch past recordings, there's a nice little playlist on YouTube where you can catch all of those. And then last announcement before we jump to Justin is our next Developer Hours event is going to be on September 24th. And this is going to be all about a new way of building interfaces inside of WordPress. You can see some of this if you've used the site editor and you navigated through pages. You can see some of this being implemented, and that is the data views. And data views is something that you can actually use today. It is quite experimental, but it is something that you can use today in your projects. And we're going to have an entire session all about data views. So I encourage you to sign up for the September 24th event. And without further ado, I will pass it over to Justin to tell us about registering block templates in
All
plugins.
right. Yeah, and plugins. Everyone, to get us started, if you haven't read this, I've already written a detailed tutorial on the developer blog that really dives into how this new API works. The problem we've had probably since WordPress has been around is that there's been no standardized way for plugins to say, okay, here's a template for, my custom URL or my, custom post type or custom taxonomy or anything like that. You just kind of like winged it, and everyone had different solutions and so on. But with the block template system, that we kind of have a standard way of handling how templates work within WordPress, and that gave contributors an opportunity to create a new API that just allows plugin authors to register their custom templates, and they automatically work with themes, and they work in the site editor so users can customize them, and so on. So that's really great as a plugin slash theme author over the last, I don't know, 20 years almost. This has been one of the more frustrating things, trying to get themes and plugins to play well together. And I will say before we dive into this, that it's not always perfect, but it's better than what we had in the past. Um, I will go ahead and start sharing my screen. If you have questions throughout, just ask them as you go in the chat, and Nick can relay them to me. I kind of like when we get the questions as we're going along. All right, so this is the post I was just mentioning. It's a few thousand words, but the basic overall the basics are pretty simple. It's just one. I'm going to just show you the function while we're got the post pulled up. It's a new register block template function, and it has a couple of parameters and a few arguments you can throw in. But we'll get into looking at how this works. So, but first for this presentation, I created a custom post type called books. If you've never registered a custom post type, it's pretty straightforward. I'm scrolling through a whole bunch of code I know in my editor. So I just registered a basic post type, and I registered a basic, taxonomy called genre. This was just to have like a place to play around with using this from like a more real world scenario. You if you're an agency or a freelancer, you're most likely creating custom post types for certain types of data, or even if you're building a plugin for the public. And let me see. So the goal is this doesn't look very pretty at this point, but that's like a basic book archive template. So before we I'm sorry, before we get into like how custom post type templates work, let's just look at all the templates that I've registered. So when you register a custom template for your plugin, you're going to get, a new category under your templates, in the site editor. So if we look at, my plugin here, develop plugin templates, you'll see I have like, was that 6 templates registered. And also just for fun, registered one for Gutenberg. So let's kind of look at how this works from a code perspective.
Can I, before we jump
Okay,
in,
go ahead.
there was a question, but I think let me phrase it to you this way. Why would you want to register block templates from a plugin when you could already do it in a theme? I think that's like a interesting question for maybe people who have never run into that use case before.
Okay, so I mean, I would say the primary use case for me, if I'm building a plugin, I'm putting it on the plugin directory. Let's say WooCommerce, bbPress, any of the big ones that have their own like front end output in some way. You don't have any control over the theme if you're developing the plugin. So how do you say, let's just say WooCommerce, for example, how do you create that product, a single product page? At least the default, you still want themes to be able to customize and override it in users. So, but you still need some default output. And then how do you get that default output to the user, like within the site editor? That's where this API really, shines. So even if a theme doesn't support WooCommerce, that template still appears within the UI, and the user can, still has the option to customize it on their own and play with it and build it however they want. But the great thing about doing it from the, registering from the plugin to start with is you can just set up that what you think it should look like by default. You can, maybe you want to integrate things like custom fields, your custom taxonomies, and have that presented to the user already in a way that they don't have to jump around and figure out how it works. And we'll look at a little bit of that. But yeah, so hopefully that's like the why. And I think that's, for me, that's the biggest use case, just publicly distributed plugins. I feel like if you're an agency and you have control of over the entire site. For example, like if you can build the custom post types and the plugin, or you can even build them in the theme if you want to. I know different agencies do different things in different ways, but maybe I could see a use case where, okay, if I'm an agency for, I don't know, like a school or a university, and we have like a central plugin that maybe lists classes, or courses, or classes or schedules, or whatever universities need to list. That's custom data. And then like each department has their own like theme and their own web subsite or something. Maybe you want to register like that default template within the plugin, but have each department, if they want to, overwrite um, the class schedule or whatever data it is that template they're overriding. I'm sure there's a bunch of other use cases that we can come up with. Hopefully whoever asked
That's
that
great.
helps. Yeah. All right. Okay, back to where I was. So the basic way to register a template is to use the WP register block template function. There are two important parts about this first parameter, um, and that's the plugin slug, which should match the folder name. So I'm actually not in the Gutenberg plugin, but I'm registering I'm registering a template for the Gutenberg, so you actually see it under its own label. And then you have the slug of the template. Like there's a double slash there. I'm not entirely sure why it was double slash. I imagine to avoid, probably like directory issues, because I don't know if this actually works. You may be able to do something like awesome sauce, and that's something I'll have to test that later. But make sure you use the double slash to separate the namespace, which is the plugin URI, and the actual template name. Now, so if a theme wanted to overwrite this, it would have to add an awesome.html template to its templates folder. There are a few things you can add. A title, you definitely want a title so the user can see what that looks like, can read it well. Description, add, describe your templates, and content, which is just basic block markup. And you're in PHP here, so you could throw PHP in the mix if you needed to. I will say throughout this presentation, I mostly used a custom function called devblog get template. And if we just take a quick look at it, I'm just using it to grab, the content of a template from an actual template file. So like if I look at, archive book here, you can format it a little nicer. I don't like the idea of like this big chunk of like block markup, in my PHP function calls. That's just for a personal preference. You can do it however you want, but content does need to be assigned the value of, some block markup, or it can be completely empty. It'll just be an empty template. All right, so this is the awesome template. It doesn't actually do anything on the front end because this it doesn't exist in terms of the template hierarchy. There's no, it doesn't represent anything. Um, and we'll get to examples of where you want to do like a custom URL and like our virtual template. But for now, let's look at the most common use case, which is custom post types. That's where plugins are most likely going to need a way to show front end data on the front end in some way. So I have a books post type we've added, and we can just look at this on the front end, and this is the archive books template. It's not the best looking presentation, but it works. I have my theme header showing up, my theme footer is showing up, and the query loop is showing with the latest book review or books that we have here. So like nothing breaks. That's always a good thing when you're building templates from books. And assuming you're a plugin author and haven't built block templates before, you can do this completely through the editor if you wanted, and then copy and paste your markup. But there's two important things in any of your block markup when you're doing templates. Call the template part the header template part, and that's the basic syntax, and that should work with about 99% of the theme of all themes, unless they just happen to use something completely different for their header name, but our header template part. And the same with the footer. Those are the basic things you absolutely need. And then what I would do is I would take the latest default theme, which is currently 2024 and it will soon be 2025, and look in any of its main templates and grab like the wrapping markup, like the main class, and then stick your custom stuff inside of that. That's kind of how I work through all of these templates I built. So let's look at the archive. And here's the archive book example. So as you see here, I'm just pulling the archive book.php file. And this appears in, I'll pull this up. It appears under our plugin. Now, I will say if you have a theme that registers this archive book template, it will no longer appear under the screen. It will actually appear under your theme panel because the theme has control of it at that point. So, all right, this is completely editable by the user. And, the user can, like any other query loop, maybe it doesn't quite look good with their site. They want to make, some quick changes, and they can absolutely do that. And be careful. Okay, that's why I said be careful. I clicked on the wrong thing. That's literally the first time I've ever seen that message. But yeah, you can change this, and I also have some custom meta added to this block, added to this plugin, sorry, that I have built. And this is a showcase of how block bindings work in WordPress 6.7, by the way. So I have, if I say I want book author, I can actually add that. And you probably don't want a date, so we can delete that, and we can add the genre for the book, which is the taxonomy. So that's pretty neat. Like in a few seconds, we've just completely customized the, the layout, and let's see, let's change this because that doesn't fit in with the books. And let's just pick. All right, so now we've got something that looks a little bit better, that for that matches the theme design a little. Maybe we want to change the font size. All right, let's just save this and like actually see what this looks like on the front end. Okay, see it's applied. And obviously I don't have an author listed for these other two books, but we can get into that and show how they might look.
Quick
So very
question.
quickly, like yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off as you were going through that. But Lisa has a question. So when this is saved, how is it handled? Is it saved to the database, or and then is there any sort of two-parter? Is there any sort of integration with like the create block theme? If you were to like export your templates and whatnot, like where would they be? Uh, sorry, rambly question, but
Okay, I admit it. Well, first of all, the first question is they're saved in the database. Um, just their user templates, and if you wanted to, like, I know everyone's got different workflows. So how I do this as a theme author is I just hit copy all the blocks here. And I'll open up my theme, and so I would create a new file. This is archive book or archive book.html. So, and I could just paste that in there, and that way I could save it from the add it to the theme. And let's do something book archive. Now, see, that's the user template at this point. So let's reset this. All right. And now that's not edited by the user anymore, but it is saved in the theme. So that's just how I do things personally as I build, and that way I'm not saving to the database. You can always just reset it, and copy it to your theme. As far as create block theme, admittedly, I have no, I don't 100% know how it works with templates. I'm guessing they get it exported. I think it should be like the default, like if you want to export your theme. I don't, because they're plugin templates, I don't know, but if you're saving them, I'm assuming they would get exported as a theme.
yeah, I think what's going to
That's
happen is that if you make an edit, it's a user template, and then which is just like any other template that you have that you've created yourself in the site editor. And then when you save it and write to theme, it's just if a book archive template doesn't exist yet in your theme, it's just going to create one from the user created one that you created. That's my guess, but
yeah.
that's kind of the flow that makes sense.
Yeah, admittedly, we should probably work with Create Block Theme a little more. I think it's a great plugin from what I've seen. It's just not part of my normal workflow. I just prefer to work. I'm a little old school and prefer to be in the files rather than in the interface completely. Um, that's just me, but I imagine it gets exported as a template once you've saved. But yeah, I showed you my workflow. That's how I do that. I just copy and paste right into my theme. I mean, it doesn't take but a few seconds. But yeah, I also wanted to show how that worked from a user standpoint and not just like a theming standpoint too. Like a user, and of course, now that this is saved in a theme, a user could still come in and do their own thing with it, and edit it, and then it will be saved in the database again. And overwrite both the plugin and the theme. So there's a hierarchy, user templates at the top, theme plugin at the bottom. and then WordPress has fallbacks, which would be completely at the bottom. All right, so I do have some other templates, basically the same process. I have this is one I wanted to kind of showcase. There's a bulk canvas template. This is like a custom, you know what custom page templates are. So this book here is using, I need to get rid of the featured image so it looks a little better, but actually let's do that. This is very much me doing things on the fly, folks. But it's fun. And all right. There we go. So I just saved my like single book template to the database, and just so I can show what this looks like. The cool thing here is I have a tutorial series on the developer blog, and it's showing how to integrate custom fields, block bindings, custom fields. And that's what all this data is here. Like if we look at written by Louisa May Alcott, that's actually connected to custom fields. And this is the new, the in progress UI coming in WordPress 6.7. So but the thing is we can integrate this into our templates as plugin authors. So if I have a book, if I have a book post type, I can, I would obviously have some sort of metadata. And in this case, I have, 4 different things: book author, book rating, book length, and book Goodreads URL. And let's just go back because I have one that's not, that doesn't have any data entered. And this is actually registered as a pattern. And yes, you can register patterns from a theme, from a plugin as well. So I think I added it, it just went to the bottom. Or where did it go? It did not add. Let's see. There we go. A little flub WordPress there. So I'm looking at the wrong, there we go. If you're a plugin author, you can register as many patterns as you want via the register block pattern function. And you can integrate your custom fields and stuff, and you can you can actually integrate these patterns into your templates. So, that could be really fun doing that and using like your, say, book rating. All right, so as we see this pattern here, we have like some, it's showing like the custom field key here that's kind of ugly. This is actually looks a little bit better in an upcoming version of WordPress, like the nightly. And let's see, I don't think that's supposed to work, but it shouldn't be 8 out of 4. But that should actually save to the database. I'm not entirely sure if it's saving in like Gutenberg 19 points, 19.2 or 19, it's going to be in 19.3, but it looks like it's like working. I have no idea who wrote Around the World in 80 Days. Any guesses?
Oh, is it Jules Verne?
Jules Verne, that's it. I was going to say Justin's Hadlot for an example. But I want to see if this just works while we have it up. So, yes, it is working in Gutenberg 19.2, the RC that's out right now. I think 19.2 is, is it officially coming out or is the RC today?
Let me double check.
Or tomorrow, maybe it's tomorrow. anyway, so like you can integrate patterns in your templates. Obviously, this pattern I just inserted directly into uh, the book post itself. But the great thing is themes can integrate with this. They can add, custom block styles, you know, and really do, you know, design it to look like they're, match their theme. And users can too. I mean, it's great if like a theme just kind of plugin adds this pattern, and then on the theming side, you come in and you add section styles, like so users can just really do this however they want. Make the website their own without a lot of work. I don't like the idea of users having to do all the individual block, typography, padding, margin, and stuff. I prefer like section styles. But
We
I
have a
don't want
couple.
to dive too deeply into section styles either, because that's more theming. But okay, let's go ahead and get some a couple questions in.
The first one, which you may be able to just check, is there any indication on a user created template that there is a plugin template available? So like if you had a user
Okay.
created book archive template, but there was a plugin one.
Yeah, there is some indication. So let's now that I've deleted it, it would have been easier to look a few minutes ago. Let's just make a change to let's just change this to extra large. It's just a all right, so you'll see. All right. It will go under, okay. I thought there were some more, oh, the author changes, but I don't know, the author is now listed as the theme here. Because the author is a theme, but this has been changed by the user. I thought it listed the user name. That might be something we need to report. Because I thought that's what it should do. I could be wrong. I thought it
I think
was.
I think it's only if you create a custom template, because this will ask you if you want to reset it, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I don't think
Yeah,
I think it's just you're modifying that template. Whereas if you were to like create like a custom, like, I don't know,
yeah.
my custom
That,
template, it would show up as you.
yeah. I thought that would too, but apparently it doesn't. Well, that's a good question. I don't know what I don't know how that should work. Maybe there should be a little icon that shows this has been customized or something in this view.
If
Um,
you if you go to the plugin, does it also show the book archive?
if you go to the plugin, it's actually removed because it's in the theme.
Oh, right.
Um, I just reset this, Nick. Now I'm going to check. I'm going to have to check what this looks like again because um, all right now but it's in the theme, and yeah, I know if it's in the theme it will not appear. It'll it'll move to your theme, into your theme,
Hmm.
but I know it's not going to appear now because it's already I have it saved in my theme. I don't know what happens if a user saves it, if it disappears either,
Right.
um, unless we go delete that template. What was the other next question though?
The next question was, it was related to section styles, actually. Can you register block section styles from a plugin folder?
Um, yeah, I mean, section styles are really nothing more than a like any other block style. So we can register block style. There's a function. So you would have to register it from like the function instead of like a JSON file. And you can pass. I wish it had a better example here in the docs, maybe, because I think the examples are like the old, how WordPress 6.6 introduced a new property, a new way to style these. I'm so used to working from a theme that I don't think about doing, but you can definitely register them using this function and register block style. And yeah, absolutely. I would just avoid what's the standard names of like section one, section -1, section -2. Um, that looks like the standard that's going to be set by 2024. So um, most themes are going to follow that naming scheme. So it wouldn't hurt to have prefix your style like specifically for your plugin. But absolutely, yeah, you can register. I think you can register just about anything you like that pattern styles, from a plugin as well as a theme. Yeah, great question. If you want to introduce your own styles.
I want to highlight real quick. I'm going to put it in the chat. This is the repository for the 2025 theme. It's still in development right now, but some of these standards, like Justin had mentioned, will be in this theme, which will come out in coordination with WordPress 6.7 in November. So keep an eye on that. So if you're interested in trying to follow core as closely as possible, keep an eye on that theme. That theme there.
Yeah, 20. Yeah. All right. So what did just reset everything? Hey, there we go. All right, so I do have a few uh let me I've messed up something as we're going. Let me pull this reset, bring the editor back up. And all right, I do have a few other templates. We kind of looked at the single book templates and we've looked at the book archive, which is not showing here because it's saved in our theme, remember? And you can also set, create a taxonomy template for your genre. So if we look at science fiction, it's going to use, the template we've set. There's one important thing I want to point out at this point as we're registering templates. When you register, I'm looking at the pattern code. When you register a template, it's important to use the template hierarchy. If we haven't already linked to that, if we can add it to the chat. For the single book template, there is this single book, it's the single dash, whatever your post type name is. Same with the book archive is your post type name. I'm looking at Canvas, archive dash, post type name. With taxonomies, that's technically a term, taxonomy term archive, taxonomy dash genre in this case. And when you use these templates, you don't have to worry about how the templates work on the front end. Like it's within the template hierarchy, so it's going to automatically work. But there are some. We're going to look at a case where it doesn't automatically work here soon. But for this specific template that we're looking at now is taxonomy genre. That is the name of the taxonomy we've registered. And so it's going to automatically be used when we say visit the science fiction archive on the front end. Or, if we click on, coming of age genre, it's going to pull up, the books under that. So yeah, I mean, you can do that for any taxonomy you have for your post types. You can even register if you wanted. You could register templates for post types that don't even exist in your plugin. There's nothing saying that it has to be, something that you've registered. You could very well create custom templates, custom page templates. For example, I know I skipped over this earlier. We have a book canvas template which just, if we look at, I'm looking at the wrong post type. So if we look at this book canvas, this is a custom template for the book post type, and it appears here. All this does, in this case, is not show a title on the front end. And it kind of gives the user the ability to completely customize like the content area and the post itself. But you can register any type of single template you want. And it could be a custom page template, custom post template. You can register custom, single, templates for WooCommerce or bbPress or any other plugin that has, front end templates that are used in some way. So you're not really limited at all with what templates you create, especially if they exist in the template hierarchy. Which should be pretty up to date, and kind of list all the possible theme templates you can use or register. So if we look at, if you wanted to, so look to say singular hierarchy. If you want to register a custom page template, that is the hierarchy. You can use any of those like names, if you wanted, and they would automatically work for your plugin and can be overwritten by the theme and can never be overwritten by the user as well. All right. Any questions before I move on to this next section?
Just another question about the double slash, but I included the link to the original comment in the PR.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So double slash. Yeah. Always use it. I assume it's a double slash because it's, in case we have like I don't know if that nest templates and subfolders work yet, but I'm guessing that would be a possibility at some point if it doesn't work at it right now.
Well, I think that normally like we use like a single slash with like namespace and like custom blocks and whatnot. But apparently internally WordPress uses 2 slashes for the template ID and themes. And
Yeah.
so this is just kind of exposing
Hmm.
that internal
Yeah.
thing.
I'm guessing that original decision I would think it would have something to do with, I don't know. I assumed it had something to do with folders originally, yeah, when it was done in themes. But
Yeah.
all right, so I'm really wanting to dig into that right now, just for my own out of my own curiosity. All right, I did want to showcase one example of like a virtual template, or just a template where you've got a custom URL. In this case, I just have custom query string that just says question mark all categories equals 1. In a real world scenario where I'm building this for a client, this might be something like, yourwebsite.com / categories or all categories. And, you would use the rewrite API for something like that. All right. But the thing is, this doesn't exist, in WordPress. This URL, like the template hierarchy doesn't know what to do with this. Like, it just it by default it's just going to show like your index template, and because WordPress doesn't recognize this as anything. In this case, you can still register your template like you could any, and the thing is there's no corresponding slug we can use within the template hierarchy. So we're going to use something completely custom called all categories. So the problem here is we need to tell WordPress, like, how do we load like our default template content here instead of just the plain index? And we do this through the template include filter hook, which has existed for many years in WordPress. There's actually several different hooks that you can use, but this is probably the most common for this use case. And this is run after the entire template hierarchy has, checked for templates, and it's ran through all the scenarios, and we had the final template that's going to be used at this point. And at this point, it's actually going to be the index file because because the template doesn't exist in a theme. So we have to recreate our own little hierarchy for this situation. So I checked that we have, the all categories equals 1, in the query string here. And in real world scenario, you're probably checking a custom query variable that you've set, with WordPress, and but I wanted to keep this simple, so we just done, done a quick check. So all this thing is, if if we have a URL like this, categories equals 1, then this is, if we don't have this, it's going to return, whatever the template was. If we do, we're going to continue on, and we're going to add a quick hierarchy, all categories.php, which is our template, and index.php. The reason I'm actually adding PHP here is because block themes can still use PHP files if they want. I think that should, it should still, work with PHP files and block templates. So the first thing we do here is, okay, we got our hierarchy, we pass it into locate template. That's, another function that's been around for ages in WordPress, and it just looks for one of these two templates, sees if it can find it. If it doesn't, we're going to pass the result of this over into a newer function that's relatively newer called locate block template. And we're also going to pass the hierarchy into this as well. And then we're just going to return. So this tells WordPress, once we get to, this all categories page, that to use our template. And like I said before, there are several filter hooks and WordPress that you can probably use depending on your very specific scenario. But I did want to show that just registering any template doesn't make it, magically work unless it's within the template hierarchy. So template hierarchy is going to magically work. If something that's not in there, you're going to have to handle the front end, the front end handling of the template is going to be something you'll have to write the code for. That's always been the case. It hasn't, this API doesn't change anything around that. All right. I think that's the basis of everything I needed to show today, Nick. We got any other questions popping up?
No, not yet. I think that this is maybe a question comment, but what are your thoughts on, let's say you had a theme and a block theme, and you had a bunch of functionality built into the theme that perhaps would probably be better served or more commonly served in the plugin, but you did so because you needed this template. You need the block templates. Do you think that with this new API, there's a stronger case for kind of that separation of theme and functionality now that we have these tools? Like, how do you kind of envision that approach as people start to use this API with block themes in the future?
Yeah, so I think so. You and I were just talking about this. Is when I wrote one of the tutorials on the developer blog showcasing how to use block bindings, I had to stick everything in the theme because I had I wanted the easiest path forward to create some custom templates, and it just made sense to stick it in a theme. Like, and I didn't even use a custom post type in that case to make it even less complicated. but yeah, so like if the template registration API had existed, a few months ago, I would have written that tutorial very differently. And so now I feel like I can package everything I need within the theme itself. The one thing that's, I mean, within the plugin itself, the one thing that's missing are template parts. Um, I think there are probably maybe a few use cases where a plugin may want to register a template part. I don't know yet. That's not part of this API at this point. And you could still use patterns, and patterns and template parts, they're mostly the same. Um, in many ways, they're like 90% the same. And I think maybe one day they even may be merged, but that's the one missing part of, packaging everything in the plugin. You just have to work around like not being able to register your own template part. Well, you could, which everything's possible, right? You could filter. There's a few filter hooks you could get into and do it, but um, yeah. So I think like when in places like the developer blog, in future tutorials and things that we'll be able to package, just like a single plugin with like all these defaults, the default front end output and stuff without ever having to figure out, oh, how I'm going to make this work, with, part of my code here in the theme and then other part here. But yeah, I really look forward to seeing what plugins do with this. If you build a plugin, especially with a custom post type, um, I think it's worthwhile to start integrating with this API and using it. I'm gonna just stop sharing. Um, okay, yeah, Jessica has a good thing. Yeah, providing additional headers and footers would be a good use case for adding template parts. Absolutely. Yeah, I think at this point we were just at like here, let's get version 1.0 of, template registration out, and let's fix the bugs with it and make sure it works. And, maybe in, the next version of WordPress or so, we're looking at, what template parts look like. I know there's probably some design decisions in terms of like architectural decisions that might play into that if, one day we decide that maybe WordPress doesn't have template parts anymore. It just uses patterns. Maybe we don't, in patterns with like a certain setting that, makes it behave like a template part. Maybe at that, we don't want to create an entirely new API that registers something that might go away.
Yeah. I do want to stress, because we are in the 6.7 kind of release period, test this out. It's available in the Gutenberg plugin. You can try it and find bugs. And if you do find bugs, please log them, because we're starting to get into that period, or we are in that period now, where we want to make sure that this is as stable as possible for 6.7. And, like we had a suggestion about knowing where the template is, if you've edited it, things like that are great feedback and things that can kind of help polish this up for the release.
Yeah. I did see, I was looking through, I said, yeah, some person asked if this works with section styles, which I did show it working with section styles in the theme. I hope just making sure that was clear. I'm reading back through the previous questions. Um, all right. Yeah, I mean, it's not a big API. It's actually relatively simple. It's just one little function call. And well, just because we have a couple minutes, we can, there's one thing I didn't share, um, and and that is how to unregister. And I thought I had an example in here, but you can actually unregister a p unregister block template, and you can pass like you know the name of the dev blog plugin templates slash single. All right, so you can actually, unregister. Obviously, this would have to come after it was registered in the load process. Um, but so you can unregister yours. You can unregister templates from another plugin, which you probably shouldn't do in most cases. What you cannot do is unregister user templates, and you cannot unregister theme templates. You can only unregister things that have been registered, through this API. So just a quick note on that. I don't think you probably don't want to unregister very often. It's probably not a lot of use cases for that, but just in case you needed to, there's a function for it.
Quick question. So just to reiterate that, so the hierarchy of templates, it goes plugins, themes, user, right? That's kind of the.
Yeah, I mean, technically we go WordPress plugin theme user. WordPress does have a fallback for everything. So, yeah. I mean, there's always filter hooks and stuff to change how things work if you need it. But I think that's a good hierarchy that, meets the needs for most people.
Mhm, absolutely. All right. Does anybody have
All
any
right.
last minute questions? Oh, I think we do.
Yeah. Can you overwrite already registered templates later in the code, or would you need to unregister and register them? That would actually, I would, I'd have to go back and look into the underlying code. That's a good question, but yeah, I would try it. And if it doesn't work, just, unregister, then do it. I think even if it does work, I would still prefer to unregister for clarity in my own code. Like that way I know I'm overriding or, another template at some point that was registered at some earlier point. So yeah, I think it would be just good practice, unregister regardless if you can, overwrite. All right,
Okay.
I think that's it on questions.
Great.
All right.
All right.
I was gonna say, yeah, thanks everyone for coming and joining today, and thanks for the great questions. And look forward to seeing you and hearing from you later.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.